I moved to Google. Google was always my dream company. So I moved to Google again as a software engineer. I was first in Bangalore, then I moved to UK. So had a fair bit of career in software engineering, like around four odd years. Then I was kind of thinking like, is this really what I want to do in life? And all those questions that keep coming after a few years. I'm sure none of you are in that stage yet, but yeah. So then I decided, I have a big interest in arts as well. So I decided to, take a break and pursue arts. So I quit my job. I started learning different forms of dancing and contemporary art and specializing in that. So I did that for another 4 years or so. And after, doing a lot of that stuff, I felt like I want to come back to the industry. And at that time, India as a market, like as a, the corporate industry had moved from a service sector to a product sector. And that is how when I was evaluating my options, I thought that, this is very interesting because when I graduated, India was mostly providing services like the technology services to American companies. And so we didn't really have any product work much in this country. And but when I decided to come back to the workforce, that was in around 2017. There were a lot of options. There were so many startups, and everybody was looking for product manager. And I kind of read a little bit about the role, and I figured, yeah, this is something I like doing because it's creative. And then I prepared and I figured out like my own fit with the role, which went well. So I started with Nestaway, which is a startup, and then I moved to Flipkart, and now I work with Amazon. So these three have been like my journey as a product manager.
Right. Thanks a lot for detailing that out. So, so you mentioned that you started out as a software engineer, and like later on you moved into product. So, how did you like make that transition? I know you mentioned there's a gap also, but like how did you, when you wanted to get into product, so like what was the thinking like, and how did you go about it?
Yeah, so like I said, when I decided to join the workforce again, the entire landscape had changed. So we had these homegrown companies like Nestaway, like Swiggy, like so many other startups like PureFit, which were kind of building products for our consumers. So that was first thing that came to my mind, that okay, now we are building stuff and not just providing a service. And then second thing was, do I want to do this? And why do I want to do this? So what happened was, I figured that as a software engineer, the role is more of a depth role. So you're still building something, but then you go into details, you go into the algorithm, you go into the latency, you go into like how to make it work for different use cases. But a product manager takes care of the what part of it, like what you are building. And that is, for me, that was like a very creative thing. And that is where the decision went, in that direction, that probably I'm more interested in what are we building rather than how are we building.
Right. So like this is a common question that many people have. What does a product manager do? So maybe with some insight into what you did, like you could explain to people like what your work as a product manager was.
Yeah, so in short, a product manager is solving problems. So they are solving business problems, they are solving customer problems, technical problems, people problems. You're basically a problem solver in between like 5 or 6 different stakeholders. So in short, that is what you do. But going in a more tangible direction, what happens is, as a product manager, you get to first conceptualize something. So there's a business problem. So if I give an example from Flipkart, I was working on inventory management products. And the business problem was that, the products that sellers sent to Flipkart, they are not really selling very well. So that is a problem. And that is like, suppose, okay, go ahead, like do something about it. So now, at that point, what a product manager does is kind of a research. So they talk. So let's say I'll go to the sellers. I'll say, hey, like, I saw your inventory that you sent in January. It's not really selling well. What do you think? Like, how do you decide to sell? How do you decide to send the products? So I will do a lot of interviews and get insights from the customer. What I understood from that research was they don't know what to send. They are assuming that, okay, now it is summertime, so summer clothes will sell. Now they're assuming, okay, this fashion is there, okay, let me send these bags. So they don't really know. So that was one insight. Second part that happens after you gain these insights, first of all, you have to convince the business, you have to convince your manager, you have to convince everybody that, this is my insight and I'm going to work in this direction. Then starts the product building phase. So now I know that, okay, sellers don't know what to send. So can I build a recommendation engine for the sellers to tell them what to send? So probably that will solve a problem. So then I start designing the recommendation engine. So I will talk to, let's say, machine learning. So can we do something forecasting that we know what will sell in the next couple of months? Because we have to give a forward-looking recommendation, right? So then I will talk to that team. Then I will talk to some tech team that, what technology we'll use or something like that. I'll talk to the designer that, okay, how should it look? Should it look like a table? Should it look like a pop-up? Should it look like, when they're building the products, we kind of nudge them with little, suggestions. So all that will go into feature building. Once, then the designer will give me like mocks that, okay, this is how the UI should look. And these will be the features. So in my example, we went ahead with a separate page where we said that, this is the product you should be sending in this much quantity and in this much warehouse. So why warehouse is important? Because something might sell good in North India, something might sell good in South India. So if they are sending like silk saris, then it's better that you send in Bangalore warehouse rather than in Delhi warehouse. So those kind of things. Now, once that is done, then you take the entire kind of requirement, it's called requirement, to the technical team. And then you kind of convince them, answer their questions. They will have a lot of questions that, why can't we do this? Why can't we do that? So you kind of address those concerns and you explain to them that these are the features that are going to be built. And what is your estimate? You get you get the estimates from the engineers. They will say like, it will take 4 months. So you might have to do an iteration because let's say you don't have 4 months. You want to, so you've heard of big billion days and stuff, right? So let's say you want to launch something before that or before the next sale. So you will say, okay, I'll not build this feature, but I will save on time. So those decisions will happen at that time. Then the building will start. So you will be doing like tracking of whether how much is built, how much is into beta, how much is into testing. Once it is nearing the completion, then the launch process will start. So what you will do is you will start talking to marketing, you will start talking to the editorial teams, you will start, because we have to tell the sellers also that we are going to launch something like this. You will take a legal approval, you will ask the legal team like, is it okay, everything fine, can we do this? And then of course marketing on the platform will say we are launching this feature. What are the different modes of marketing? Are we doing emails? Are we doing push notification? So then all that process will happen. And once the launch is done, after that, you start tracking your success or failure. So you will say that, okay, how many sellers actually opened the recommendations? How many sellers actually, accepted the recommendations? Are we doing any good business because of those recommendations? Is the sale going higher? So that is how it is. And then once this entire thing happens, then you will go back on your decisions and you will see like, can you improve something? So that's kind of an entire life cycle of product management.
Right. Thanks a lot. I mean, it was very detailed insight into what a PM does. So,
Yeah.
And then I'm assuming like, if you're working on a particular product, you keep iterating, like this cycle keeps going on and on. Like, does that
Yes.
work like that?
Yes. So just like I said, that once you launch and once you start tracking metrics, um, you will find something which might not be going as per your expectations. So you will again, you will start from the beginning, that user research. Okay, did I miss something? Did I miss any insight? So was the seller saying that I don't know what to send, or was the seller saying that I know what to send but I don't have that from my supplier? So I mean, you get deeper into the problem, and then from that new insight you try to iterate over the feature, and then you again go to the tech team, again do the launch. So of course it is an iterative process, but then by that time you can also look at some other problem and parallelly start solving that. So this is the entire gamut of work.
Right, right. So, so again, like what when you explain the process, it sounded very intuitive and kind of very smooth. But I'm assuming like there would be a lot of skills, and there is a lot of skills that go into managing this whole process. So, like, what are those skills? Like, if you can name a few, like that come to your mind that every product manager generally has.
Yeah. So see, like I told you, right, this is the entire, there's a life cycle. And as you can see, there are so many teams that we interface with, starting from market research, then engineers, designers, marketing, legal. So all the time you're talking to people. And I think one of the key skills is how to connect with people, how to communicate with people, because they are doing their own work, right? So they are having their own teams and they are busy doing their own work, chasing their own targets. And now you are in between going and saying that, you know what, I want to launch this. Can you do this for me? It may, like they may say that, I don't have that in my roadmap. So basically getting, selling your idea. I think that is one key skill. Selling your idea, creating that urgency for your idea, making others believe that, oh, this is the best thing to do right now. I think that is one very important skill, because to be honest, nobody reports to a product manager. There may be like associate PMs, but there's no engineering, there's no sales, there's no machine learning, data science, nothing reports to a product manager. But a product manager needs to get work out of everybody. So the only way is through influence and through conviction, and like a case building kind of an exercise. So that is one skill. Second skill I would say is product thinking. And product thinking is very like intangible, but it can be built. So I would say product thinking is, first of all, understanding why we are doing something, and then translating the why into a product. That is the product thinking. So for example, like an engineer, like if somebody is not having a product thinking and I give this problem to them, they might just jump into saying that, hey, I have this cool algorithm, let's use that. And that algorithm is, it has 99% precision, and this is the next best thing, and let's use blockchain. And so that's not product thinking. You're not trying to solve the problem, you're trying to use the technology. So product thinking is, okay, why we are solving? Who is the seller? Is the seller a small seller? Is the seller a big seller? How are we going to make sure that their problem is solved through this product? So developing that kind of thinking is a very, very key skill. I would say these two skills are kind of complementary, and both the skills are really key to your success in product management.
Right, right. So when you talk about this product thinking, so how do you build that? So how did it come to you? Like, was it something that you learned on your first product role, or something that you learned while you prepared for that role, or while you were talking to people, while applying for such roles? How was that? And secondly, like, are there any frameworks, or is it something that you just learn on the job?
Yeah, so that's a really good question, because even like for me, like I told you, right, I came back from the arts, and I had no connection with product or technology for so many years. And then suddenly I'm interested in joining as a product manager. So it was kind of like, who are you? Who are you to be a product manager, but yes, so what I did, what I did was I started talking to people. Like, I spoke to some of my seniors that, okay, what is it? And one of my seniors told me a very interesting thing, that instead of, trying to crack an interview, try to analyze products. So for example, if you go to your mobile and you look at, like, let's say 5 apps which you use, so Google Maps or Facebook or Instagram, Zoom, whatever, like whatever products are there, and you kind of very familiar products, and you start analyzing them from a product viewpoint. So for example, if I take Google Maps, right? So you start thinking, okay, what is the problem it is trying to solve? It is trying to solve, let's say, navigation. So it is, okay, there's a list of problems, but let's say you identify 1 or 2. So it's trying to solve navigation. Okay, how is it trying to solve navigation? What all is it doing to solve navigation? So it's doing like, it has a map interface. So it has a pin, it shows you where you are. You can enter a destination. So it's trying to make like A to B kind of an experience, that I want to go from this point to this point. It has, like, when you're driving, it has a speech inbuilt, because the app understands that you're driving, so you won't be able to see the screen. So you have, like, audio instructions. So you identify all these small features that are built to solve that one particular problem, and you try to understand those features, and then you see. So that is kind of an appreciation process, right? So first you identified the problem, then you appreciated the features, and then you start critiquing them. So what can be better? What is still not there in this app which can solve the problem? So for example, like, traffic is something that already is solved, but is the road closure solved, or is it solved that, for example, in India, sometimes Google Maps takes you through these small lanes and you get stuck, right? So can we solve that? So how can you solve that? So start thinking, like, it's just a thinking that you can do in your home. You don't have to read any book, you don't have to go through any, like, material. So that is one process. I would say if you do it for 5 or 6 apps, you'll start developing that thinking. And second thing that I did was identify a problem that I want to solve. Like, not like the next $1 billion idea, like just something very simple. Let's say an app to learn how to paint. Okay. So, I mean, it doesn't matter who is going to use or something. You just think of an idea and you start creating a product in your mind. Okay, who are the users? Are you going to create this app for a child or for an adult, for a professional artist? How will make sure that their pain points are met? And you write that down. Let's say you make a 2-pager. I think these kind of exercises will help you build that product thinking.
Right.
I don't know if that answered your question.
No, definitely that did. So just to summarize, like, look into some of the existing apps and try to think of the problem they're trying to solve, and then understand why certain features are there, and like what problem they are solving. And another thing that you did was, like, address a problem that you yourself had, or like that you could see around you.
Yeah, so when I say map the features to the pain points, and then the next step is critiquing the app. Right. That is equally important, because sometimes we think that this app is perfect, it can't be better. Right. But when you spend 1 more hour on that, you will find one thing that is missing. And that is important, because that is where your brain is kind of identifying more pain points. And that is what, it will really develop your product thinking.
Right. So these are ways in which you basically prepared for that first product role. And like, after getting in, what are the biggest learnings that you had? Like, preparing is one thing, and like doing it is a different thing altogether.
Yeah, so preparing is not just this much. So this is kind of developing your product thinking. Right. And then you will also have to brush up your analytical skills. That is equally important, because most of you guys are not into product roles. So the questions won't be around like, what is the last feature you built? The question would be like, what is the grocery market size of India, so that's where the analytical skills will come in. So you'll have to learn to market size things like, okay, what's the population of India, what are the households, how much do they spend on grocery, so those kind of things. So these two would be, I would say, for a fresher or for a non-product manager, these two streams would be good to build. Now coming to the second part of the question, which is after coming in. I think I already spoke about the skills, right? One is the stakeholder management part of it, which is the softer aspect, which is, by the way, more difficult. How to communicate, how to convince people, and of course, product thinking is always there. So I cannot really think of anything else which comes in handy, yeah.
So, I think like because you are from the art side, like design would have come a little naturally to you. But like there are a lot of people concerned that do I have to have a really good design sense if I have to get into a product role? And because they may come from like a business analyst background or data background. So what are your thoughts on that?
So I would say it depends on the product. So products are not always customer facing.
Right.
Products can be business facing. Products can also be, like I told, like if you're using some machine learning and you are coming up with a number, like or some analysis, even that can be bundled as a product. So it can be like a backend product which doesn't have design. So I don't think every product management job has a design aspect, but even the ones which have, usually there is a designer on team. So you can totally depend on their expertise. If you don't believe in your design sense, then you can like really go to that and say that, just can you review this design for me? And I would say the third thing is, what really is design sense? Design sense is something that you look and you feel intuitive about it, right? You know where to click, or you know that, okay, it's not messy, it's not like too much information. So I would say it's kind of common sense as well. So once you do your first exercise, which is going through the apps on your phone and go to like all kinds of apps, I think you will also start developing that sense that, okay, here the buttons are nicely spaced. So when I click something, I know what is going to happen. Whereas in this app, it's all like, this text box and this, there's no padding, there's no kind of space. You might have some comment on the colors. So you will develop it. Like, I don't think there's anything to worry about it.
Right.
And once you start appreciating products and you're looking at products in that way, it will start coming to you.
Right. Got it. So let's talk a little bit about, how companies evaluate prospective candidates for product roles. So there are like two kinds of candidates, right? So one, which is majority of our audience, is like they are looking for that first product role, and two is like people who are in product roles trying to switch companies. So you have like experienced both of that. So maybe we can start with, entering into that first product role. Like what are the kind of questions that are asked, and like what is the company trying to evaluate in you?
Yeah, so yeah, I agree that both of them are completely different ways of evaluation, different candidatures. First one, which is like when you're not a product manager, plus I think also like fewer years of experience. I think what I would look for is, first of all, a clear, like, what does this person want, and it's not like you don't really have to know all the answers that, okay, why I want to be a product manager. You can just say that I like this aspect of product management. So for example, like I used to say this answer that product manager does so many different things, right? So they do marketing, they do research, they do design, and I like that thing. I like to do different things. I don't want to just do one thing in my life. So that's a perfectly good answer for a fresher. But you should have something that you like in product management. If you come across as a person who is just going for it because this is the next cool thing to do, I think then it's sort of like, I don't know. I mean, just get something that gets you interested. I would want to see some passion around it. So that is one thing. Second things in terms of skills, um, in terms of hard skills, I think I've already touched upon. Like that is one is product thinking, which will be evaluated in terms of questions like design a solution for this. So, for example, like I gave an example that design an app to learn painting.
Right.
So I'm evaluating you in your creativity, in your way of thinking. That are you directly jumping into, designing app? Okay, I'll use image processing, But are you asking me the right questions? So what will be the right questions? It will be like, who am I designing for? What is the problem? Is it, uh, okay, let's say I identify I'm designing for adults, but what is the pain point I'm trying to address? So is it like how is it better from YouTube? So is it going to be live teaching, or is it going to be like telling me about the basics of painting? So, you have to understand what you are trying to do here. If I see that thought process, that would be a good plus. And I would also like to see analytical skills, which I would evaluate using market sizing problems or guesstimates problems. So I may ask something like, okay, how many Uber taxis are running at this point in Bangalore? So how would you go about it? So again, it's not about getting the right answer, but it's about the thought process. And then I would ask something about their present job to just see the passion. So I would say like, okay, what did you do last, and what was the exciting thing about it? So the way they talk about it, like if they say, yeah, I did this and this and I mean, like, then I don't know if I want to work with that person, because I want somebody who is always like oozing with ideas, or they're really excited about what they're doing. So I think these kind of skills would help for a fresher. I mean, do you want specific questions, or?
I we got an idea about the questions. One is like around product thinking,
Yeah.
possible case study or like a possible question around product thinking, and then guesstimate, and then in general trying to understand that person's like genuine motivation,
Personality.
their
Yeah.
personality.
Yeah. And also in product thinking, so one of the questions would be like around design, which I would say that, okay, design this app. I may also ask you, what is your favorite app? And tell me 3 things that you like about it and 3 things that you don't like about it. So again, I'm testing product thinking, but I'm asking a simpler question because I know that it's a fresher. So they may not be able to design something, but they can at least talk to me about a product. And similarly, I might ask that, okay, tell me a product which you don't like and why you don't like. So if you answer things like, it's so confusing, or it just keeps crashing again and again. So those are kind of a little bit layman answers. But if you go into a slightly more detail that um, it's intended to solve this problem, but when I open the app, I do not understand how to start. I think that is like a product issue that you are highlighting. Or this app, I have used it, it's not accurate enough.
Right.
So then I know that you're talking about the accuracy of the app. So those kind of things. Coming to experienced candidates who have product experience, it will be mostly around the experience. So and not just experience, I would say metrics. So, I talked about the life cycle. So after launching a product, you immediately start tracking metrics, right? You have to know whether how many people are clicking, how many people, like weekly active users. I don't know if you've heard these terms, daily active users, weekly active users, how many people are engaging with the app or something like that. So I would ask those questions from an experienced candidate, that how were your metrics? What were the metrics that you were tracking? How were you tracking those? And how did you iterate the next feature based on the metrics? So that would be definitely like one of the questions. And then again, product thinking is always there. That round is not going anywhere. But then also another thing that will get added with experienced candidates is the behavioral questions, because immediately you will be working with stakeholders. So I might ask you that describe a scenario where um, a team did not agree with your idea, and then how did you go about convincing them? Or I might ask you, tell me a scenario where you did not have enough data to take a decision, and then how did you take the decision, and how was it was received? How was it received by the other stakeholders? Because you are not presenting data. So how did you say that, okay, this, I think this should be done? So broad categories for experience would be experience of metrics, experience of iteration and trade-offs, product thinking, and behavior.
And what about like about the company that you're applying in? So like, is there like, do you have to bring something to the table during the interview? Maybe some insights about things or some ideas, or like, do they try to evaluate if you have a possible idea or a solution to an existing problem of theirs? Is that common?
I mean, some interviewers might ask you, but that would be in one of these rounds.
Right.
So it would fall in one of these buckets.
Right.
So you can take it as a fresh problem also.
Right.
I mean, if you're interviewing with like an e-commerce company, or so let's say you don't know anything about e-commerce, but you can think from first principles, and that should be okay. Too much research into a company, I don't see it's needed. Basic understanding of the business model should be enough.
Right.
So if you know how the company is making money, and you do the product appreciation of their product,
Right.
that should be enough.
Right. So I think like, so again, going back to the freshers and the people who are looking for the first product role, product thinking, like design thinking, what's your favorite product, and then guesstimates. So I think there's a lot of resources out there which people can kind of practice and like build at least like a basic structure to the answer and like a framework that they can develop. Are there any resources that like you used or that you might recommend?
Yes, so I use one book, which is called How to Crack the PM Interview.
Yes, yes.
I think you must have heard about it. It's like the
Cracking
most,
a PM interview, I think.
yeah, Cracking the PM Interview. Sorry, yeah, Cracking the PM Interview. It is by Gail McCann, and she's a ex-Googler. I just refer to that book.
Right.
That's quite comprehensive. That's also like, the book is not just about interviews. It also talks about product management.
Right.
So for me, that was kind of enough, because I told you, right, what process I went through, like like criticizing the products, appreciating the products, and then building my own product on paper. I think that was the prep that helped me more. And then to top it up, this book was quite cool.
Right. And what about like talking to people in product roles? Like, I think you already mentioned that you did that, right? You talked to a few seniors.
Yeah, I spoke to my seniors like before, like, when I didn't have any idea about product management.
Right.
But that time I was so naive. I didn't even know what to ask, So I would just say like, I don't know what I want. So I don't know if that helped, but the one thing that I got out of it was that one of my seniors, like he gave me this tip that instead of trying to answer interview questions, why don't you build this product thinking? And that's something that really helped me. Otherwise, I was like as lost as anybody else. So talking to people is good. Like, once in a while you can get some insight, and that would help. But yeah, it's cool. Like, you can always talk to people. That's not a problem. But I think like, don't go into those things that, okay, how do I get this job? Or, I mean, those things are also important. But I think if you do your prep, then you are ready for any job. You don't have to really talk to specific people in specific companies. Like, build your own kind of product personality, I would say. That is more important.
Got it. I think like you mentioned, like how you were lost talking to people. Like a lot of people are in that scenario right now, uh,
Yeah.
because uh, like you can make out, again, like you said, from the questions, like you can make out like there is a need for getting into product management, but the understanding is like low at this current stage. So I think, like you mentioned, reading that book and like trying to break down existing apps, trying to develop that product thinking can be a really good first step. Even if you get a job or not, I think it's still like very helpful,
Yes.
even if you get a job.
Actually, I would say one thing, when you're doing that exercise of breaking down the apps, and then you kind of write your own app on paper, if you can get that second part of it reviewed, so if you can get somebody to review what you have written,
Right.
that might help, because I did that. So I took my whatever I had written, I took that to that senior and I said that, what are your comments? And he did give me some comments around that, you've not researched this part enough, or it's not coming out what you're trying to do here. That discussion would help with
Right.
someone, with someone who is experienced,
Right. So another thing is, like, the landscape has changed a lot over time. You have a lot of supply in terms of people in the market, like product managers. So what does that do to the opportunities, for people who are looking for that first product role? Like,
Mhm.
uh, is there more expected out of them, or is it too much to expect getting into a product role? Like, should people just do something else and try to switch internally? Like, so
Yeah,
there's
I
no one answer.
understand.
Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I understand that thought. I think, if you approach this entire exercise of getting a PM job with a kind of curiosity, like you don't go into an interview room with this thought of, yeah, I know everything. If you approach it with a little bit of like, what do you say, like mm, humility, and acceptance of, yeah, I don't know what this is, I'm exploring. Yeah, exploration, I think that really comes out as a very good quality, um, because then you tend to also forgive if a person doesn't know, because they are like a sponge, so they are so open minded that they would I would see that quality, that, oh, this person is ready to learn. Because again, like I said, product management is not a degree, right? You're not going to be a certified product manager suddenly. There is no, I mean, there are sort of certification courses, but it is not something like a BTech or something like that. So it's all about your behavior, it's all about your attitude. So you do all these exercises, you do the product thinking, you read the book, you kind of get an idea, you're figuring out things, and you go with that mindset. And it's very fair to tell the interviewer that I'm exploring, I have just 2 years of experience, but this part of this job really attracts me. For example, you can say creativity, or you can say talking to people, or you can say like building something out of scratch, and that's so exciting. So something very down to earth and honest. Like, I think the best part that you can do is be honest. Like, just say that, I don't know enough, but I'm ready to learn, and if you give me an opportunity, I would do my best. I think these general life qualities, I think that really come out as very, very important skills for product management, because a product manager is almost operating from their common sense. So if I have a person who is kind of saying that, oh, I have figured it all, I don't know, I'm not sure whether we can evolve, or whether that iterative mindset is there. So I would say that is enough, and don't so stress out on it. Like, it's not the end of the world. And there's so many beautiful careers and so many beautiful things that you can do. So, and if you really want to do it, it will come to you. Like, you keep doing these exercises, you keep reading about it. So one fine day it'll like be like, oh, okay, I got it. Yeah, like this is it. and those you can just wait for that. So there's nothing, so taking it so seriously will not help actually.
Right. And like, are there, for like talking about students, like, are there any like alternate work experiences that can help, like internship? Are there product internship opportunities in companies, for example, like Amazon or Flipkart, or like maybe internships or projects in other roles? Like, would that help?
I don't know, I have not heard of product manager internship,
Right.
because like I told you, like it's the entire life cycle, right?
Maybe like
So
one part of it. Maybe you can be like an analyst for the product manager, like
I
doing
think
user research,
analyst, yes,
right?
yes, I think so.
Right.
um yeah, why not, like one can try that. But even like even switching from software engineer to product is completely fine. Or like for example, I don't have an MBA degree, but I see a lot of product managers with MBA. So all sorts of people are there in the market. Like you said, there's a lot of supply. So there are a lot of people, but there's nothing to get bogged down. I mean, you guys are like IIT students, and you've definitely cracked something that is so difficult. So this is just another thing, and if you have your head in place, like I said, right, it's not about reading a lot of material or getting the technical aspect of it. It's about developing that thinking. And once you have that, you will find you will definitely find the job. Like I'm sure, as the supply is increasing, so is the demand. So there's nothing to worry about, and just keep working on your thought process. So that's important.
Great, Surbi. I think like that's a good note to end. Like, because there are a lot of, I think, a lot of new products coming in because of the technology. Like, digital products are going to keep growing, and there'll always be opportunities. So
Yeah, I think I can add one thing. In like again, like there's nothing right or wrong, but as an experience, like starting from a startup is slightly better for a product manager, because very early on you will get that ownership, and you will know the entire life cycle. And in a bigger company, you will be working at a very specific feature. So you'll get lost. You'll be like, is this product management or what is it exactly? But to start off, I would say owning a feature or owning a product, I think that would be a really good experience. So that you can make all the mistakes, and you can, learn from that. And then you can go to like a bigger company, and even if you're doing a smaller job, you can put it into perspective. So you know the entire picture, and then okay, this is my job into it.
and I think that's where all the new opportunities are also cropping up, like in startups. People are
Yes, yes,
doing
yes.
new things. Like, great,
True.
great. Like, I think it was a great session, and a lot of information that people can pick up on. Thanks for sharing this with us.
Okay, my pleasure. If you have any more questions, like I'm happy to help through email. And if you want me to review anybody's design docs or something, more than happy.
Sure. So what we have is, like, we have a product community. So we have people in the industry, like across Google, Microsoft, Flipkart, and even people who are looking to get into product. So I'll give you the link to join that group, and maybe you can help people out there and be involved there.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Great. Thanks again for joining in.
Okay, Karen.
Yeah.
Great talking to you.
Yeah. Same here. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye. Take care.